Okay, now that we have our database structure in place, we want to actually use it in our app and not just have a login button that doesn't do anything and goes to the home page. So we want to be able to add a login page, a sign up page, and connect to Supabase to actually authenticate that user. And so the first thing we're going to do is put it in our login page. So let's reload the app. And let's do touchable text input. No. Oh, not in the button, above the button. Okay, so text input, rounded large, let's do border, gray, let's do full width, and then let's do P4. Okay, perfect. And then we also need a password field. So password type. Oh wait, no. Okay. Placeholder, password, email, password. And let's put it in a view so that I can put some padding around it. There we go. Text center. And then our name. TikTok. Well, let's put login. Screw it. Okay, we have our login page. So let's actually store some value. So const email, password, value, password, yes. And then react dot, and then import. Okay, so now when we actually put in text, it'll actually change the state. And let's create const handle login, and then handle, just make sure it's login. Email, password. Nope. Yep, okay. So now we have a basic login page, email, password, and it's just login what we have. But we want to be able to connect to Supabase with the Supabase functionality to sign in and sign up. So actually, before we do that, let's also create a sign up page. So we're just going to copy and paste this whole thing. Rename it to sign up. Sign up. Handle sign up. Okay, so, and then on login, we went to and go to sign up. Nope. Oof. What did I do? Oh, touchable opacity on press, go to sign up, text black. Oh, text black. Semi-bold. There we go. Okay, on click, go to sign up. Sign up looks exactly the same. So let's do with turning this into a modal. So Expo Router makes it super easy. So we're just gonna do presentation equals modal. Presentation. Oh. So then we click sign up, and we got our modal. Awesome. And so one more field we want to add actually is username. So text input username. Okay, so we got sign up, login, So let's add Supabase. So we're going to import Supabase from utils, not to lib. And then the way we call that is sign up. So there is no username field on sign up. So if we go back to Supabase table editor or authentication, we see we only have a couple fields there: display name, email, phone, provider created, last sign in, user ID. So that's why we created our own table. I don't know how many times I'm going to click database instead of authentication. Our own table, which is actually smaller, but this gives us the ability to add extra fields in the future. And we're going to use the ID from the user UID from the authentication, so those two are always linked up. And so turn this into an async function. So what the idea is to sign up through authentication and then create a row in that user row, and then use that user object when you're navigating throughout the application instead of the authentication object. So what we want to do, if error return console error. No, we don't want to push. Oh, else router data push tabs. And the mode is actually a little weird because you have to first dismiss it and then route to tabs. So since this is on the sign up page, we have to dismiss it first. So sign up. So let's give it a shot. So we're not requiring username right now, so just do hello to reactnativenerd.com. Nice. So we have reactnativenerd.com. It's a login. So let's see if it created the user. There we go. And make sure if you're in the email, you might get an error if you have confirm email, because this is on by default. So you want to make sure you turn it off and then click save, or else it'll force you to confirm the email first. And for testing purposes, it's a lot faster, easier to do it without. And so let's delete this user for now. And then we want to be able to, if there's no error, we don't want to route yet. We want to create a user. So our table name is called users. We want to insert username, email, and we also want to add the ID, or we need to add the ID, the key. So in this object, we get back in this data object, we get back the user object, and in that object we have the ID that we want to use as the primary key on the user table with username and email, and then we want to route. So let's try this one more time. This time we need username, so nerd hello at reactnativenerd.com. I spelled it wrong. That's going to be a common theme on this one, spelling things wrong. Okay, so we signed up with our user, it created, and then it should have a row in the database as well. Yes, okay, there we go. So our username is nerd, email hello at reactnativenerd.com, and then the ID C12C would match this user ID. Can't really say it. C12C. There we go. So we also want to be able to create a user, or sorry, log in the user. So we're going to do the same thing over here of importing Supabase. So on login, sign in with email and password. If there's an error, log, else route to the tabs, handle login. And then also to test this out, let's do, actually no, we don't need to do that. I'm gonna add the sign out, but hello at React Native nerd.com. And here we go. We are able to sign up a user, create a user, and then log in as that user. But it's all the logic is in these pages of index or login page and then the sign up page. And then we want to use this idea of the user object on almost all the pages. So we want to be able to know who's logged in, when they like a video, who's liking it. So we want to use that user ID all over the place, and we don't want to have to call Supabase auth every single time. So what we're going to do is create a authentication provider instead to be able to reference that user object multiple times without calling it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add a new folder. mkdir providers, and then we're going to do touch providers slash let's name it Auth Provider .tsx. Okay, and in here we're going to create our own custom provider. So import React. We don't need all that stuff from React. Import Supabase. Auth context. Create the context. And in this context, we're going to have a few functions. We're going to have user, loading. We don't need sign in, sign up. Sign up. We also need username. Here. Okay, so we have export auth provider, and we have the children. So children is like, this is going to be at the root. So if we go to our layout, this auth provider is going to be at here, and then stack is the children. So it's just passing on those items so that everything in as a child has access to what's in the provider itself. So we're going to import it, even though it doesn't exist yet. And that's probably what the error we're going to get. It cannot be used as JSX. Yeah, we don't have enough yet. But we're going to create our context. So we have React create context, and then we're going to export const use auth. Here we go. Okay. So we're going to create our context of use auth. So this context we just defined. Let's just return. Okay, let's go through this one step by step. We have the auth context. We're going to create a context. It's going to have a few different things or functionality. Our user object, which we're going to define, that's the thing that we need on all the pages. So this is the state that we need to have access to. Sign in method that we're just going to copy and paste from the auth page that we just created. We're just going to copy and paste this over to the provider instead. Sign up and then sign out. So we're going to use this sign in page, sign up page, and then the sign out page. And then in that, we're going to do a few different things. We want to set the user. We want to const router, and then we want to be able to route the user once they're logged in, and then we want a few different functions. So let's literally just copy and paste from what we have. So const sign in. So we have sign in, const sign up, and then const sign out. Okay, so we have our functions defined that we just copy and pasted over, and we're not importing router. Okay. So now we have all the basic things. We have sign in with password. We have sign up. And we have, wait, is that sign up? Yeah, sign up. So let's copy all of this actually. Sign up, and then we create a user, and then sign out. And they also want to be able to get user. So we want to be able to get the user that's being created right here. And the way we do that is just const get user. And this is not right. So we're going to do const data Supabase from user select ID user ID. Let's just define ID here. Okay, so we're going to get from the users table anywhere the ID equals ID, and then in one of these functions, so let's say one of these functions data, when we sign in, if there's no error, we want to be able to get the user information and then route them. So maybe we want to move this router to the get user, and then dot single. So Supabase from user, we want to select everything basically where it equals, the ID equals this, and we just want to get, this would return an array. So we just want to get one item, so which is an object. If there's no error, then we want to set the user from the data, so we have access to this user object. And then we want to route to the home screen, aka the tabs. And then we want to call this get user from sign in. And I guess we don't need to call it from here. User data. So we already have access, so we don't need to get it again once they sign up, but we need to set the user. So we're going to set user with the user data. So Supabase from user insert ID, get that user data, and then route, dismiss the modal, and then go home. And then sign out, we want to sign out. I also want to set it to null. And so we're going to pass in user, sign in, sign up, and sign out. And since we wrapped our layout, we're no longer getting errors. So let's see if that actually worked. So that means we would be able to, instead of defining it here, we would be able to do const sign in auth context, use context. No, we want to use auth. We defined the context already, so export const. So we don't have to call this React use const everywhere. We can just use auth instead. And export that instead. And we have access to sign in. Or we should have access to sign in. Let's see. So in here, so now we actually have to define email and password. So instead of handle login, we got to do a function and then pass in the email and password. So let's see if this works. And in here, we can log the user data all the way over here. So we're gonna call sign in with password with that information, pass in the user ID to get user, which is called up here. We're gonna query the database of the user table where the ID equals this, and there's a single version or a single item. If there's no error, then set the user data here, log the data and then push to the home screen. So let's see if this works. So what was my user? Hello at React Native nerd. And then log in. Hey, look at that. And then we have our object created at email, ID, and username. And you could tell it's the user from the database because it has a username attached to it. And we could do the same thing for sign up. So we can remove all of this. And while sign in and sign up are only used in certain places, so it doesn't seem like that big a deal, but the user object we also have access to. So I'll show you that in a second. So once we sign up, so if we go home, we can get the user object that we just defined. And let's literally just stringify the whole object so we can see it. So let's try the sign up page instead. So test at test.com, tester. I'm gonna sign up. Ooh, we have null. Let's see what happened. Let's try. Oh, wait, what was that? Just created the password, I already forgot. There we go. ID, test, email, created at. Let's see. Sign up worked. Test. User. We have test.test.com. If error. Maybe we do have to call. Hello world. Hello at world.com. And then there we go. Okay, so that's what it was. This Supabase insert doesn't return the data object that we were expecting, so we're just calling get user again. I think this is a setting that we could just change in this query to return it once you insert it as well. But for the time being, we got sign out, sign up, sign in working in our Auth Provider that we could use on all the pages. And just to show, if we go, let's say friends as well. And we log in, and we can see it on both friends and home, and then inbox doesn't show anything. So without calling Supabase multiple times, we could see the same object on multiple pages. So it's basically a global state since it's at the very parent object. So that allows us to reference this object on many other pages. And so we're just going to expand on this in the next video of integrating with our camera and start taking some videos.